We're pleased to welcome now Hank Zuber. He represents District 1 to 13 in the Mississippi House of Representatives. That's Jackson County. He's chair of the House State Affairs Committee. Representative Zuber, thanks for joining us, sir.
Gerard, good morning. It's another great day in Mississippi. It's the following day where the House of the Mississippi House of Representatives has provided the leadership on transformational legislation.
Yes, sir. And, of course, you are referring to, of course, the rather sweeping tax bill, HB 1. I was in the gallery yesterday. Don't know if you saw me taking in the discussion. And I thought it was good. It was robust. And even opponents, I thought, came to the front, came to the podium and made some decent points. And I think showed that they also have an interest in providing tax relief. As you know, it's just a matter of what the proper approach is. But this thing passed, as is. I don't think I saw any amendments that got added, right? It passed as it came out of committee. Is that right?
That's correct. And as you know, it was bipartisan, as Speaker Jason White mentioned.
Yes.
And, Gerard, I kind of... some people can get stuck in the weeds and they can't see the forest from the trees. But to me, the big picture, if you think about it, it was the moral and the ethical and the correct thing to do because we're shifting the tax burden in this state away from the worker, away from one's work ethic to consumption. And to me, it was an easy vote. I mean, that's just the right thing to do in terms of what's moral and what's ethical and the way, taxation should take place in the state.
Yeah. And, I mean, this has been, I think, a key tenet of conservatism for decades with respect to the most efficient and productive way of generating the necessary revenue to operate government, and that is to collect those revenues on consumption as opposed to production work, if you will.
We share. That's right. We share the same view. That's exactly what I stated. Is that it's moving the taxation burden, shifting it from income, work to consumption.
Yeah. Now we had Speaker on yesterday. And he was kind enough to stay with us for 3 segments, so we dug into the details quite a bit. And one of the things, of course, I posed to him that I'll let you talk about as well is you've no doubt seen and heard from the public on this, and my guess is you've got conflicting reaction has kind of been my sense of it, that some people really think this is a great deal, and some people have concerns. And it's understandable. A lot of that, I think, Representative Zuber, stems from the fact that when you're dealing with taxes, it's just complicated. And I wish it weren't. But we have, both at the federal and the state level, in virtually every state, we've just made it complicated because we got different functions of government that derive their revenue from different sources. And the combination of all that kind of adds up to our overall individual tax burden. But where I'm going with this is one of the objections you've no doubt heard is that, wow, you're cutting income taxes, but you're raising taxes on retail sales and you're applying a sales tax on fuel. This just sounds like you're just swapping taxes. I'm not really getting any true net relief. What do you think?
I don't know what they're basing that on, okay? You cannot just pick 1 year or 2 years and see what the tax result is. The goal of the legislation is to reduce taxes. What was it? Almost $1 billion, something like that, over the 10-year period. So if you look over that 10-year period, Gerard, it is not a tax swap. It is a significant tax reduction. So those people who are coming up with that opposition, they're just picking out what the result is after the first 2 or 3 years and not looking at the whole time period of the legislation.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. And, just full disclosure, I have shared some models on that, some cases, I guess, if you will. in social media. I've done some here as well. Everybody's situation is no doubt different. But here's what I would share with you is that anytime somebody sees, okay, you're cutting over here, but you're adding over there, the natural reaction is, well, now going through a mathematical exercise to review your personal circumstances, you're just changing it around. You're just shifting the ball from one bucket to another. I'm not really getting any net relief. You unfortunately got to go through a math exercise to figure out what it means.
Well, whenever you include the grocery tax reduction, I mean, it's again, in terms of what the net result is, it is a tax reduction for just about everybody in the state of Mississippi, and that's a fact. I mean, that's what it does.
Yeah, well, and I agree with you, but I think that's absolutely true. Certainly, once you get to the terminal aspect of the plan, where the income tax is fully phased out, and that, of course, offsets the slight increases in sales tax, and then the application of a new tax on the purchase of fuel. And then, of course, you're right. You have to figure into that as well the reduction in the overall combined sales tax on groceries. And all that has to be added up to figure out what the net effect is. One of the concerns, of course, is that the full 1.5% additional local tax on all goods, except for those that are not presently subject to the full 7% tax rate, that goes into effect July 1, 2026, but the phasing out of the income tax takes place over 10 years. And so there's a timing issue where the net is fairly minimal until you really get about halfway into the phase out of the income tax.
Gerard, I realize that, but you got to look at the complete time frame of the legislation. I mean, the people who were opposed to it to begin with, and I think they realized what the big picture was. You cannot get lost and into the details as to what happens the first year or two. The plan is a 10-year plan. If you look at the 10-year result of that piece of legislation, it is a tremendous and large tax cut for just about every Mississippian. So, it's not right to just look at what happens in year 2 or year 3. You got to look at the complete lifespan of the plan and what happens, at the end of the legislation in year 10.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I agree. I'm just pointing out what I'm hearing from the public as concerns, and I respect the heck out of you, and you know what you're doing, and I am as grateful as ever for your support and your leadership. Again, I'm just trying to channel the voice of what I'm hearing. I want you to know that, Representative Zuber. You and I are on the same page, and you know that. But I think people think short term. They don't think long term, and they want to know, what does this mean for me, today? And
no, that's true. And some people, they're looking at the trees instead of the forest. I get it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
But again, it's another example. Similar to PBMs and last year with PERS, where the House under the leadership of Speaker Jason White is providing the guidance, is setting the example and the leadership to move the needle. And to move Mississippi forward. And, it's not just about, hey, what happens to my pocketbook? That's a large part of it. That's what people are worried about. But it also allows us to compete with our sister states, other states in this region, and other foreign countries to bring investment and high-paying jobs to Mississippi.
Yeah, there's no doubt that states do compete on the basis of what their tax environment looks like, and there's no doubt that our adjacent states in particular that we compete quite handily with, they're all taking a hard look at reforming their tax environments to be more competitive. And that's a good thing. We've seen action recently from, I think, Louisiana and I believe Alabama. They're all taking action to try to trim their tax burden to make the state more attractive to investment, no doubt. We got a break right here.
That's exactly right. And whenever the governor goes out and the speaker goes out and the lieutenant goes out, governor goes out to try to bring investment to the state, they can go out and say, if the Senate passes this bill as is, they can tell these future investors and businesses that it does not require any further legislative action to reduce the income tax.
Yeah.
At that 10-year period, Mississippi will no longer have an income tax. And so there's no other further action by the legislature that is needed. And Gerard, never forget that consistency, that permanency, that's a big selling point.
I got it.
Okay.
Hang on. We keep talking if you can stay with us.
Okay.
We're coming right back. Days we are discussing tax reform and other things with Representative Hank Zuber from Jackson County. All right, so Representative Zuber, I totally agree. You got to look at it holistically. You got to consider all the moving parts and pieces.
Sure.
And that's what we've attempted to do here. You know, I've had some folks that have shared their personal info, and I've run it through a model, and just to give them a sense of, okay, this is what it means to you. Now, you're, of course, estimating roughly how much you spend on that which is subject to the new 8.5% sales tax, that which is subject to the lower sales tax on grocery with the terminal rate at 4%, which is 3% savings from the current rate. And then you got the 5% on fuel. So everybody's situation's different. I get it. But you also got to take into consideration those who are paying income taxes. A significant decrease when we get to zero, you don't have a tax liability. So all positive.
Yes. Gerard, I almost forgot. I'm driving home. But,
yeah.
I don't know how much time we have.
Okay.
But as you know, the Speaker has given us the green light to look at the the overall state's procurement system and IT infrastructure. And you're going to love this. This is right up your alley. I have been working very closely with Jill Ford.
Yeah.
I believe she may even be your state representative.
She is. Yep.
In addition to Scott Delano and Bart Williams over in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're going to see a piece of legislation. We're kind of working on the final language. But I think you're going to see a piece of legislation that will be a game changer for the future of Mississippi for the next 50 to 75 years. Now, Gerard, what am I talking about? I'm talking about helping our state agencies, okay, both general and special fund, move away from hard drives, mainframes, to the cloud storage. And this may surprise you. Do you know we still have some state agencies that are using mainframe computers?
Yeah, I'm fully aware of that. They've got legacy software that would need to be converted and replaced with a software that can operate on open systems platforms.
That's correct.
That's a massive investment. Takes a lot of time, but I've been talking about this in the state for over 30 years.
Well, it should have been, Gerard, it should have been 20 years ago it should have been done.
Yeah.
I mean, the private sector got rid of mainframes, back in the 80s? Maybe the 90s?
Well, not exactly. Most financial institutions in this country still operate on legacy mainframe platforms because they're just bulletproof, and it's really, really hard to just forklift them, as we say in the industry. But they put front-end end-user interfaces on that. You don't know that there's a mainframe in the background. You're right in that it is expensive to operate and maintain mainframes.
You're right about that, but the maintenance, the upkeep,
yes,
the contractual responsibilities are so much more compared to the cloud storage. So, I mean, not only is it the right thing to do, it's more efficient, it's more secure, it's going to save us a ton of money, Gerard.
It is. I just caution you that you can't just take the software that's currently being powered by those environments, those legacy mainframe environments, and just download it, if you will, or transfer it to an open systems Intel or Micron or NVIDIA-based platform. You can't do that. There's a whole bunch of time and work and money involved in rebuilding those applications.
That's right, and I don't want. I don't want to make the mistake and give you the impression that this is going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it's something that we need to start. It needs to start now, and we're not going to require anything overnight.
Yeah.
But
sure.
But just think about the possibilities that if we're able to do that, just in terms of, the most common reasons why to do it. Security. Maintenance,
sure.
Expense, so forth and so on. But think about the information, Gerard, that will be able to be shared between the legislature and the agencies, between entities such as CPS, Child Protection Services, and DPS, the Department of Public Safety. And not only that, but maybe even between CPS and your local chancery court. So it's the informational exchange and the efficiency of that exchange will help the legislature promulgate better public policy.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. And what we should have done a long time ago is created, of course, what we call data warehouses or data lakes, which would make it easy to access that mountain of information in a usable format using tools that a layperson can apply and utilize. I mean, that technology's been around for decades. There's nothing new about that. Where you take
it's just a matter of us getting it done.
Getting it done. That's right.
No question about it. You're exactly right. But it's time for Mississippi to move into the 21st century whenever it comes to our IT infrastructure. Yeah,
no doubt. Now, of course, you've got the ITS data center, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but my company was actually involved in designing and installing all of that infrastructure. That's probably 20 years ago.
Well, yeah,
when they did that.
Yeah, I'm very well aware of that, but we're going to make it optional in terms of the cloud storage through public or private sources.
Agree.
Yeah, and that's what needs to happen. And think about it, okay? You got the ITS cloud storage, but again, just think about the money that we can save if we make Google and AWS and Microsoft compete for that service. Don't even think about or include the expertise that they have to maintain it, but just the reduction in the cost.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, so it's called Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS, and
IaaS.
Yeah, they're different categories of that, different services around that broad category. I mean, if you look at AWS, they've got about 80 different specific IaaS services. And again, you got to convert the software, but I would encourage you to really take a look and do some cost modeling on that, because there are a lot of companies now. I just read an article in CIO yesterday about a lot of companies are pulling it back into on-prem because the cost of cloud, moving workloads to the cloud, has actually increased rather substantially. So I'm just telling you, as a person that's been in that industry and helped hundreds of companies with this same process going back to 2000, it's you got to sit down and really do some ciphering and some comparative analysis. But in general, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and ITS is helping us with that.
Yeah.
They've given us some numbers. The numbers look, and I'll run those by you one day. But
sure.
I mean, but not only that, it's obviously the money is a major component, but the expertise and the support system that we would have in place.
No doubt.
But now, in addition, we also need to look into, we've got AWS coming to Madison. We've got another data center, I believe, at Meridian, and one more that has been announced, I believe, somewhere in the somewhere else. But we need to come up with a strategy on how do we get their synergy, how do we transform that into making these companies locate some of their jobs, Gerard, some of their high-paying jobs also in Mississippi. It's great to have the data centers, but we need to transform that to high-paying jobs in Mississippi.
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of that as far as the jobs that are on site, but there's no doubt that managing and operating data centers is not something that requires the actual human talent to be physically present where the data center is located. In fact, that's actually a bad practice. And so you got to be careful there. There's a whole lot of people behind the scenes that are involved in making sure all that stuff's working like it's supposed to. In fact, they're all over the world.
That's right. That's right. But we're supplying the cheap energy that they need. Okay. Yeah. That's the number. That's
a big
what
part
this
of
is
it.
all about.
Yep.
Mississippi has the space, and they have the cheap energy.
Yeah.
But if we're going to allow them to come to Mississippi, let's put some pressure on them. We don't have anything to lose. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, you want to use our energy and our space? we're giving you all these tax incentives. You locate some of these high-paying jobs in Mississippi.
Sure. I'm all for that. I would just, I'm sure you're aware that you're competing with a lot of other sites in a lot of other states. And, if you put some sort of requirements in there that make it such that it's not cost effective and in their best interest economically, it could be a problem. Just be careful
I hear
with
your
that.
caution. Okay, I understand it.
Yeah.
Mississippi can compete with anybody.
No, there's no doubt about it. But
Not
when you
just
start,
in terms-
I'm saying when you start instituting requirements like you will put this many people here that are making this kind of stuff, and the other states say, no, you don't have to do that here, and we'll still give you the same rate on land and energy, it could render you uncompetitive.
No, I understand that. I'm not saying mandate anything. I'm just saying, hey, just throw some things out there, maybe in terms of some incentives,
Sure.
and make them, if they're going to locate here, make the CEO, make the higher management personnel come to Mississippi and just spend some time here.
Sure.
What's wrong with that, Gerard? Once they come here, they're going to want to stay.
Yeah, sure. All for it. I think that'd be great. I've been clamoring for increasing our corporate headquarters in the state for 30 years because that, honestly, is where most business emanates from. We got to go, but I appreciate you coming on with us today, Representative Hank Zuber. Thanks.
Okay, Gerard, have a great weekend.
You too, man. Appreciate it.
Okay.